Hi students, this is Shivakrishna, working as a assistant professor in civil engineering department at Anurag Engineering College. I am dealing the subject of disaster preparedness and project planning management. Now we are coming to the fourth unit, that is disaster risk reduction. Here, how to that disaster will be impact on that particular society, and how should be risk assessment you have to maintain on that particular situation you are already, and how to reduce of that risk you have to studied in this chapter. That is, first of all, risk reduction means it is aimed to preventing new and reducing existing disaster risk and managing residual risk, all of which contribute to strengthening resilience, and it should therefore to the achievement of sustainable development. The concept and practice of reducing disaster risk through a systematic efforts to analyze and manage the causal factors of disasters, that including through the reduced exposure to hazards and latent vulnerability of people and properties, and management of land and environment, and the improvement of preparedness. It should be adverse events that United Nations have. We are using the policy, and that policy should be established in 2009. Based upon that, the reduction factors it should be implemented to on the particular countries. The disaster causes loss of lives and properties. Disaster also turns one's life upside down. This disaster erase all the social and economical progress achieved till date. This, therefore, although disaster could not be totally prevented, some impacts can be reduced only. So, due to this risk reduction factor, helps to identify the vulnerabilities of groups and protecting them. In this situation, it is the way of being prepared against the sudden disasters. The natural and unnatural occurring physical phenomena, it should be caused by either the rapid or slow onset of events having atmospheric, geologic, and hydrologic origins on solar, global, regional, and national and local scales. And here, that disasters often follow natural hazards that are results of that combination of hazards, that conditions of vulnerability and of the insufficient capacity are measurable to reduce the potentially negative consequence of the hazard. In here, the disaster risk reduction, it is the concept and practicing the reducing the disaster risk through systematic effort to analyze and reduce the casual effort of the disaster. Some of the components will be involved in that particular disaster risk reduction, that is mitigation, preparation, response, recovery. By using the by using these elements like mitigation, preparation, response, and recovery, we are coming to mitigation. Mitigation refers to it is the taken as some action taken before the occurrence of an hazard or event, and that is mitigation phase reducing the overall risk and impact on that particular location. And vulnerability assessment also, it has the plays a very important role on that mitigations. And after vulnerability, we have to assessment of that risk occurred on that particular disaster, and what are the hazards coming on that particular location, how to affect on that assessment. We should have to calculate on that situation. See here, in this includes reviewing the building codes. Building codes means here some of the zones you should have to distributed on that building codes. On that look on that mat on that information only, you have to select the what type of risk reduction you have to take in on that particular location, and how to implement on that particular situation. We have to understand the people and the users. This vulnerability analysis should be updated on the users, and zoning and land use management and planning. Next, reviewing the building use regulations and safety codes. Next one, implementing preventive health measures, political intervention and commitment, public awareness. And what in that structural mitigation, the construction project will reduce economic and social impacts. The dams will be constructed and reservoirs and wide breaks and terracing, and these all are the risk assessment programs due to structural elements. And coming to non-structural activities, we have to providing the policies and regulations on that particular zoning areas. By using that, we have to minimize the disaster impact on that particular location. Policies and practices which arise awareness of hazards, encouraging the development to reduce the impact of the disaster. In that structural, we have to take that first one example, that is earthquake resistance buildings. That earthquake resistance building, it should be bearing of that earthquakes. The earth will be vibrated on that particular scene. The building will not be collapsed. Why? Because we are providing the earthquake resistance specifications. In that situation, the underground section, we are providing the shock absorbers. These are used to provide on that building. It should be observed that tremors of that earthquakes, and that wave should be observed by using these observers. And strategies here, various mitigation strategies, for instance, varieties of crops that more wind, flood, or droughts resistance can often be introduced in areas prone to floods, droughts, and cyclones, and what area it should be coming to floods, and what area it should be coming to cyclones, and what it should be coming to droughts. This first of all you have to coming onto zoning on that particular location. See here, what type of infrastructure you have to provide on the situation. First of all, you have to investment in the infrastructure to support sustainable socio-economic development, and investment in infrastructure for reconstruction recovery. A backup generator is available in case of power failures and battery operated radios, and backup copy of all critical actions. And the preliminary design should take into consideration that prevalent hazards and methods to avoid the hazard and disaster, minimize the effect of that hazard, and strengthening vulnerable areas such roofs, exterior doors and windows, and garage doors. How to prepare that preparedness of the disaster? Preparedness, it is also done before the occurrence of event, and it should all kind of the plan. It should be like vulnerability management plans, emergency preparedness plans, and evacuation plans. It should be prepared, and after that, preparedness of disaster relief plans, and the conduction of a awareness and education programs for general public, and the sharing of the risk portfolio with the related partners and the institutions, development of early warning systems. These are the all components should be involved into disaster preparedness. And you have to regulate some plans also, that is preparedness plans, emergency trainings, warning systems, emergency communication systems, evacuation plans and training, resource inventories emergency, and personal list, mutual aid agreements, and public information. These all are elements should be coming into preparedness plan only. How to respond? The people will respond very active role in the playing the preparedness plan. It should be refers to activities that are after the event, saving human life. It is a major concern at this stage. And evacuation, mitigation, administrating of first aid, and transportation of affected people to the hospital. Emergency services like food, shelter, medical attention, etc. It should be provided on that particular recovery system, and the provision of medical health, and coordination coordination action between the local and international bodies, and national and international support. It should be very helpful to reduce the vulnerability of that particular event. And the response, The mission of that response it is meet the basic needs of the people until more permanent and sustainable solutions are formulated. This is the growing awareness of cost associated with the improper management of disasters. Hence, it communities and government are trying to hard improve the first responder efforts. Disaster response is aimed to at providing instant support to maintain life and health affected population. And it is a wide array of response activities carried out after disaster like first aid, transportation, shelter and food, initial repairs to damage the infrastructure. The level and kind of disaster responsible depends upon the several factors, that is the disaster and the number of affected people and site specific conditions. These all are phenomena to understand the disaster capacity. And response compromises the decisions and actions taken to deal with an urgent situation that has adversely affected life and property. It calls for collaboration, coordination, communication between the agencies involved in administrating rescue and relief operations. The main aim of the response has to save life and human life only. What are the other aims to response? To guarantee the continued existence of the maximum possible number of affected population and ensuring that they are in the best possible physical and mental health in the circumstance. The resisted, restored, the replaced and demolished or damaged infrastructure to help the living, suffering people. This recovery, it is a post-disaster action. It creates the emergency relief fund and rehabilitate the victims. The reconstruction of the damaged properties of make arrangement through the government loans and psychological counseling to given that affected people due to disaster. And coming to natural hazards, inventory and vulnerability, location is all are acceptable risk. Why? Because these are natural events. Without any human involving in that particular situation, the hazards will be forming regularly. In that particular situation, some of that protection we have to provide on the people, that is preparedness, protection, emergency response, and recovery license. In this particular scenario, the international disaster risk effort should be involved. Many countries are putting an effort to develop and implement the strategy for risk reduction, and the financial and technical support also enhanced to efforts. The international support and assistance to any situation encourages on that risk disaster plan. Coming to the integration, the political commitment it is a very important key to advancing the issues of all levels. This integration it helps to bringing the overall changes, and the situation along with the commitment requires transparency. Such integration is also necessary to gain international support and assistance. Many international conferences and organizations also emphasize on integration of risk reduction plans into national policy. Capacity building. Already you are discussed in the fourth unit, that is capacity building. The capacity building involves it is representing as a national and local strength. This capacity building can be done through improving governance, accountability, leadership of national societies and local bodies and committees. It includes providing education, training and skills voluntarily, and all related staffs have to appointed on that particular location when the occurring on that some event. That challenges you have to address in that risk reduction. First of all, effective and uniform disaster information system, lack of political commitment, and increasing the risk reduction. In this situation, needs to maintain the disaster information system, and this needs to be uniform and scientific as well. And issues like finance, technology, human resource, etc., will be such kind of things you have to involved in that particular information system. Lack of political commitment. Lack of political commitment is a major issue for developing a country. Which country main issue being fighting the poverty, improving health and establishment of basic infrastructure and risk reduction come to the least priority. This political commitment is utmost to prepare for disaster beforehand. In this increased risk, the unplanned urbanization further increase the risk occurrence of the disaster in such countries. This planned construction town planning further makes the people more vulnerable, and it should be nation growth alone increase the risk, and countries are more prone to affect the climate change and the disaster induced. This type of number of risk reduction factors we have to implement it on that occurring on that particular disaster. We have to save the life and properties and infrastructure of that particular situation. Okay, these are the risk reduction factors. Okay, thank you students.